This movie should be titled Superman versus Daredevil. I can't, you guys. I can't. Gosh, this movie. Okay. So, after John Wick 3, I had said to myself, Self, I'm done with this franchise. I just can't with the over-the-topness of everything. It had gotten to the point that it was just so ridiculous. I could not suspend my disbelief anymore, and it was boring. The action was getting boring to me. And so I had no desire at all to see John Wick 4, at least not to make a trip to the big screen to see it. And then I was on a live stream this afternoon. Well, technically now it's yesterday afternoon because I'm filming this Friday morning. I was on a live stream. Specifically, it was Did You See That channel, Mike. And the title of the live streams that he has every Thursday is called Z Talks. It's really fun. People that love movies, shows, whatever, get together, talk about stuff. Is great. Highly recommend you guys check them out if you like to watch movie discussions and things like that. So one of the participants, gosh, I can't remember who it was, he had seen John Wick 4, he loved it, and there had been glowing talk about it from others. I had been seeing that ratings for this were higher. So in this particular series of movies, it started off very solid. Audience and critics just in general love this franchise. And second movie scored better. To me, it was not as good as the first. Third movie scored even better. To me, it was definitely not as good as the first or second. And then this fourth movie, just huge numbers. And I have a feeling the audience will love this as well. I will ease your mind right now and say, which I think it's going to ease your mind if you're concerned at all about this movie. If you loved the insanity and over-the-top ridiculousness of 2 and 3, especially 3, you will probably love John Wick 4. I did not. I didn't outright hate it because there's a lot of, well, there were several pros to it, but y'all, I can only suspend my disbelief, but so much. And this is a series that seems to be taking itself seriously, but it's gotten so crazy with the stuff that happens and John Wick surviving it all that I'm just like, I just can't, you guys. I can't. Like, everyone in here that he fights with, practically all these hitmen that he goes up against, they're the crappiest shots ever, but then there'll be somebody a time or two that at the exact right moment, in the exact right spot, they can make the perfect shot. It's like, what the, like, and the stunts, now, the stunts in here were good in that it's crazy the stuff that they went through to make this. And huge props and kudos, you guys, to the stunt team, to the choreography team that puts all this together. As insane as the fight sequences are, they are very well choreographed. Yes, there's moments where you can tell it's obvious choreograph, like the swing high so you can duck, and the obvious hesitation before you swing when you clearly could have swung and taken somebody out, you know, that sort of thing. That is in here. But you know, there was a shit ton of work. Ooh, sorry. There was a ton of work that went into putting this movie together, and the storyline in itself is pretty decent, but what I don't like about 2, 3, and 4 is, so one was a pretty solid film. Then they had to go bigger and better for 2. So then they developed this huge underworld and all these assassins in this hotel and all these people coming after people and all these rules, and it was just like they created this huge world, and it just got bigger and bigger and more insane. And that's when this franchise started to lose me. And I love Keanu Reeves. I think he is an absolutely outstanding human being. So this and the actors in here were fine. None of my criticism is against the actors. and not even really against the people who crafted the overall outline or bare bones sort of story of this, because that's okay. But this franchise has gotten to the point for me that it kind of reminds me a bit of my aversion to musicals. It's very rare that I like a musical. A lot of times musicals will just snap me right out of the moment. Something's happening and then they break into song. And I'm just like, oh, okay, well, let me know when the song's over. That's how I feel about the action in this movie. When this movie is at its best, it's moments like this. To me, when the movie is at its worst, as far as keeping me engaged as a viewer, is probably the exact same thing that a lot of viewers enjoy about this film. So I'm just like completely separated from people like that when it comes to my feelings about this movie. When it gets to the action, like let's say he's going somewhere and this crowd of assassins descend on him, like has happened in the other movies, you know, like he's up against 20 or 30 people, you know, and they're all coming at him. There's this crazy shooting and all this stuff going on. When those moments start to happen, my brain does the musical thing. Oh, okay, this again. Well, let me know when it's over. You know, so it's just, there were moments during these action scenes that I was writing notes. I didn't care that I might miss something because I knew nothing was going to happen to John Wick. So let me just write notes here. And nothing was going to happen to the main like side characters in here or certain ones that were going to be involved in the, you know, overall storyline. So let me just write notes. I don't care if I miss something on the screen. Something I forgot to mention was that during these insane over-the-top action scenes moments, there were a lot of times that instead of watching the main action between John Wick and whoever he was directly up against, I would start studying the people in the background that he had maybe hit or shot or whatever, and just watching how they would play their part of getting back up to come at him again. And it was always timed so well that they could barely get themselves together in time for him to put them down for good. Or there would be moments where they would be able to snap back after something just in time for a particular showdown between him and them. It's just, and then the blind man in here, the stuff that he was able to do was so just out of this world crazy. There's just no way, I mean, unless you're watching a Daredevil movie. So I started to get really annoyed by things like that. Okay, back to the video. That may seem sacrilegious, blasphemous to say something like that about a John Wick movie, especially one that so many people like. But that's where I am with this franchise, and that was why I didn't want to go see the fourth movie. But I was cautiously optimistic when I went into this because one of the participants on the live stream had said, because one of my complaints with 3 was that it was just basically nonstop action and it got boring. I get desensitized to that and it gets boring to me. Boring. And so he had indicated that there were more moments of downtime. That is true. There are more moments of downtime. I did appreciate that about this film. The original runtime of this movie was almost 4 hours. The theatrical runtime is almost 3 hours. So make sure you take a bathroom break before the film starts if you don't want to miss anything. I'm sure there will probably be an uncut or director's cut or longer, you know, full almost 4 hour version of this that's going to come. I would be surprised if it doesn't. But this was a long movie. I wasn't bored as far as, you know, for the story as it's unfolding. The action scenes were like, oh no, ho-hum, hurry up, just get on with this. Let's get back to the actual story with the characters and their interactions and all this. But I wasn't, as far as the overall story, I wasn't bored, if that makes any sense. Probably makes no sense at all. Oh, I should have started off saying this early on. There is a post-credit scene at the very, very end. Many people left the theater. I guess they just never, well, obviously they never checked that it was going to be a post-credit scene. I've gotten in the habit of checking for almost every movie, and I did. They said there was one. There is one. I predicted the characters that were going to be involved in this post-credit scene, and yes, it's exactly as I anticipated it would be. So stick around for that if you want to see it. I already talked about it being long. Oh, the choreography. I've already given praise to the choreography. it was well done. Like it was very well crafted, and just they put so much time into working on this. And there was something recently that I saw today, well, slash officially yesterday, I believe, on Twitter or Instagram. They were talking about how there really needs to be a category at the Oscars for stunt work, and I absolutely agree with that. Now, I don't really care overly about the Oscars. I like it when a movie that I enjoy gets awarded anything, but, well, except for the Razzies, but the Oscars in general, I'm kind of over that. But I do agree that stunt work should be something that is considered, because the stuff that these stunt people go through, it's crazy. And the risking of lives and injury that happens is crazy. And I feel like that the risks that these people take should be rewarded in some way, especially when they make it look so painful and real. Anyway, so yeah, there's that. There was, the cinematography was great. There was a particular scene that happened where the camera was following from above. It was almost like a video game where you're looking at things from above and you can see him moving from room to room, and you can see what the other people were doing in the other rooms as they were converging on him and all this. So I like that. That did stand out. Like I said, just cinematography as a whole. The score was great. And so all of those are pros. I've already moaned and complained a bit about the thing. Oh, and he was great. What's his name? Bill Skarsgård. Pennywise. He was really good in here. I mean, everybody was good in here. Everybody was good, but he does a really good job at playing a villain, and he was excellent in here. So definitely no complaints as far as him as the main baddie in here. So I'm going to get in a little bit more with my complaints about this film, and I ranted. Like, it ended up that, one of the reasons I also ended up deciding to go see this had to do with car issues that Arturo had when he was on his way to work. So he took my car, so then I went down to the theater later so I could watch the movie, and then we would just drive back. So I was ranting in the car almost the whole time we were driving home. And I've had some span of time between watching this movie and now sitting down to regurgitate my thoughts on this film, but my angst is still present. So as I've already mentioned, the action in here, whenever it goes into that stuff, it's just so over the top. It's boring to me now. Scenarios just beyond ridiculous with all these people that he goes up against, dozens of people at a time in certain fight sequences, and they just can't hit him. And at one point I was just like, what the heck is his suit? Like, why is he not getting shot? There is no way in the world he would not get shot. Well, I must have forgotten if this was a thing in the other movies, especially 2 and 3, but his suit is bulletproof. Okay. That was specifically talked about. So, okay. Well, all right. That makes sense. Okay. Because then a lot of times he would hold up his jacket to shield his head because everything's bulletproof. But even so, he's getting hit, but he's not reacting to the fact that he's getting hit. And people with body armor, when they get hit, they still feel it. It still does something. Oh no, doesn't do anything to him. He's like Superman. I swear to God, he's like Superman. And so it's like, not that I wanted anything to happen to him, but it's just like, oh, come on. And then stuff like falling from great distances off of a building, slamming into a car, getting hit by cars multiple times, getting flung over and smashed into things. Oh no, he's perfectly fine. Just walk it off. It's just like, oh gosh, I just can't. Oh, and then there's a scene where he's rolling down some steps, and it's like steps and then a flat area, like a landing or platformy area. I don't know what you call it. I call it a landing because like on a staircase, it's a landing, but whatever, a flat area and then more steps and then a flat area more. So at one point he's falling down these steps. When he hits the platform, he should stop. Realistically, he should stop. Oh no, the stunt dude makes sure that he continues to roll. It's very obvious he's continuing the roll. So it's just like, oh gosh. And at one point, when he fell off a building and I'm just like, oh. And there was a dude a couple seats away from me. He made a noise, and I don't know if the noise was just like expressing a sentiment of sympathy because, oh, that must have hurt, or maybe the same sort of frustration as me. I doubt it, because the audience seemed to enjoy it. There were moments of laughter when certain things happened, and I don't feel like the audience hated it at all. I was probably the only one in there that was just like twitchy all over inside. So stuff like that. It's just like, what? Oh, and then the things that people can live through, and then a shot to the side, like to the side, not to the head, not to this area, to the side. It kills him. Okay. I mean, I know that people can die from gunshot wounds to the side, but after all the stuff that a person goes through, how in the hell is an injury like that? How are we supposed to buy that an injury like that really kills a person? So it's just, oh, and then the terrible shots, like I was saying, he's wearing body armor, but he doesn't have a helmet. And all these people are such crappy shots, they can't ever shoot him in the head. Not that I want him to be shot in the head, but they can't ever get him in the head. Like, and just all these people shooting at him, and they can't get him, but he can just get every single one of them practically. A lot of them are wearing some type of armor, so it takes multiple shots, but he's really good at headshots. And even when he's driving a car and doing donuts, I was just bullets flying all over the place, nobody getting hit, like, except for the right people that need to be hit. And then there's another fight scene that happens, and just like, okay, this is where I do have issue with the writing, obviously. This part of the writing, I'm not talking about the overall story, this part of the writing. There's a scene where he has nunchucks. His opponent has a gun. Why is his opponent trying to do close-up fighting with him? All he has to do is back up and just aim and fire. Why are you trying to, I mean, just like that sort of stuff. This is the stuff that gets on my nerves, you guys. And I can handle it in small doses, but when it's something that is throughout the entire movie, practically, I start to just, my brain starts to just shut off, and I just can't. And the amount of illogical stuff that happens in here, like the amount of unrealistic things that happen, people running straight at each other and missing completely, shooting and missing completely. It's just like, what? And I don't know, just, oh, and then also like grievously wounding an adversary, but not staying behind. And this is like an adversary that's continuous throughout and not staying behind to finish them off. Now, this particular person did get finished off at some point a little later, but it's like, why are you even walking away from this guy? Why aren't you just doing him in right now? It's just so. Oh, and then in other fights, like let's say there's all these people, he's dealing with people, and then there's other people that are coming at him from a great distance. He is well within their sight line, but they don't do anything. They wait till they're right up in his proximity to try to with him. That doesn't make any sense. Oh, and then there was a dog in here, and I love the dog, and there was a guy with the dog. I'll point him out when he comes around. I liked his character. I liked the dog. I liked the dynamic with him and John Wick. And the dog, I'm pretty doggone sure they referred to that dog as a girl, but there's a scene where the dog pees like a boy. I can't. Y'all, it just bugs me. These sorts of things bug me. Maybe there's some girl dogs that do. I mean, I've seen boy dogs that squat to pee like a girl. A lot of it has to do with maybe their age or when they were neutered or whatever. But I don't think I've ever seen a girl dog pee like a boy. I might be wrong. Maybe it happens, but still, when that particular scene happened, that was just another thing on my list of cons or stuff that really got under my skin. I was like, girl dog, but pees like a boy? ? Anyway, okay. I think I've ranted about everything. So, all of this ranting, it doesn't mean I'm sorry that I watched it. I mean, part of me is because I had sworn off watching it, but there were things about it that I enjoyed that helped take that helped take a tad of the sting off of the things that really annoyed me. And, you know, I do appreciate the aspects of it that went into making this film that I already mentioned, like the cinematography, the choreography, the acting, the score, that was fine. But just like with, what was a movie I saw recently? Like with 65, let's say. And well, that's been generally agreed upon that it's not a great movie according to most people. There are some people that do like it, but just like with how I felt about 65, there was just too much wrong with it when it comes to logic and reality that it prevented me from fully loving this film like I enjoyed the first film. I do enjoy the first. Yes, there's a lot of over-the-topness there, but it's still kind of scaled back to where it feels a little bit more realistic. I think if they had toned down on the number of people that he comes up against in here at a time, and also cut down on the length of time these fight scenes happen and the number of fight scenes that happen, I think this movie would have been so much more solid to me. I would have dug it a lot more. If they'd cut out nonsensical stuff like him falling from great distances and nothing happening to him, just kind of, groan, and then get up and walk it off and he's fine. If they had cut out a lot of these instances where there's just no way in the world that he would have avoided being shot, I could have been so much more on board with this. But just as a whole, this is why I think it was a comment I made in the live stream, and maybe I've said it on one of my own live streams or videos, that I'm so over John Wick, and this movie cemented that feeling for me. So unfortunately, this didn't change my overall perception of the franchise as a whole, though I still do really enjoy the first movie. And the basic storylines in the subsequent films are okay, but they're just amped up too much. They're amped up way beyond my ability to continue suspending disbelief, and that's why I have so many issues with the sequels and with this. So, yeah. Those are my thoughts on John Wick 4, aka Superman versus Daredevil. I'm sure they're different from almost everybody who manages to watch this entire video, or even makes it through the first few minutes. Oh, it was really sad to see him, y'all. It was sad to see Lance, knowing what happened to him recently. I hated that. Just hated it. And, yeah, well, that's the dude with the dog. I don't know if it shows the dog in any of the pictures here, but yeah, I liked his character. He was a new character. There was something that happened to him, too, though, with his hand that was just like, no way. There's no way that particular hand would even be remotely functional. You'll know it when you see it, but these are tiny spoilers that I'm giving you, but I think you guys are familiar enough with John Wick to sort of, it's not overly, there's the dog. It did show the dog. I like the dog. I'm not getting into major spoilers about plot, just spoilery territory when it comes to the action, over-the-top action. If you loved that stuff in the other movies, you were going to love this movie. Okay? If you didn't, if that bothered you, this will probably bother you too. But I have a feeling folks like that, we're going to be in the minority. Oh well. Okay, you guys, I've gone on long enough, and it is well past midnight, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. This review will not go up until probably Saturday. Yeah, because I just don't have I don't have time enough left tonight / this morning before I go to bed to finish editing, and it takes a bit to edit. So it'll go up at some point. All right, you guys, that's it. I don't have anything else. Let me know what you think about John Wick whenever you get around to seeing it. I have no doubt that if you're a fan of the previous films, you will like this. Okay. Adios.